Moments ago, the unthinkable happened. Across the United Kingdom, the very foundations of Westminster trembled as voters stormed the gates of Buckingham Palace, their anger and defiance echoing through the streets of London. Within hours, social media exploded, showing chaotic scenes of citizens demanding accountability, waving banners and chanting for Reform UK, whose unprecedented 74-seat majority has shattered expectations and sent shockwaves across the political establishment. Ministers are in turmoil, aides are scrambling, and the corridors of power are silent for the first time in decades. Never before has a single election left the Prime Minister's office paralysed in fear, with aides whispering in panic as news of Reform UK's landslide spread like wildfire. Starmer's Labour Party, once a symbol of stability, is now fractured, humiliated and facing the stark reality that its promises have been swept aside by a surge of public outrage across the country. Polling stations that had seemed routine mere hours ago now appear as battlegrounds where the people have reclaimed their voice, casting aside the political elites and their carefully crafted narratives. Reports are already emerging of government ministers being trapped in emergency meetings, their phones ringing incessantly as aides attempt to stem the tide of national humiliation. The atmosphere in Downing Street is described as apocalyptic, with whispers of resignations already circulating, and analysts warning that the political fallout could destabilise the nation for months, if not years. Meanwhile, Reform UK leaders are moving swiftly, their victory already transforming into action, issuing statements promising to restore public trust and reclaim what they call the true essence of British democracy. This is more than a victory, it is a repudiation of the old order. Within hours, the Queen's own advisers are said to have convened urgent discussions, weighing the implications of a parliamentary shift so profound that it challenges the very legitimacy of the sitting government. Across media outlets, the nation is collectively holding its breath, witnessing a historic moment where tradition collides with rebellion, where the people's voice has literally stormed the gates of power. Inside the palace, eyewitnesses claimed that security had never faced such organised chaos, with citizens demanding audience with royal officials to demand accountability and transparency. The scenes are surreal, banners declaring Reform UK or collapse waving beneath the gilded facades of Buckingham Palace, a vivid image of tension between monarchy and citizenry. Political commentators are describing the moment as the most dramatic expression of public anger in living memory, highlighting a unique convergence of popular revolt and strategic political victory. Reform UK's leaders, emboldened by their stunning success, are already signalling an agenda that will confront entrenched elites, targeting policies seen as self-serving, corrupt or disconnected from the people. For the Labour Party, this is an existential crisis. Starmer is reportedly isolated, receiving briefings that detail the depth of the revolt and the scale of public anger that propelled Reform UK into this unprecedented majority. Within hours, the opposition benches are in disarray, with whispers of mass defection and internal betrayal spreading faster than any official statement can contain. Across the nation, the mood is one of incredulity as citizens and analysts alike scramble to understand how such a seismic shift occurred. Polling experts, political scientists and historians are all struggling to reconcile decades of stability with this abrupt upheaval. The sudden storming of the palace is not merely symbolic, it is a visceral, unmistakable statement. The people will no longer be silent. Some royal aides have described the incident as a crisis of legitimacy, with palace staff hurriedly trying to reconcile the historic continuity of the monarchy with an unmistakable message from citizens who feel betrayed by Parliament. Meanwhile, social media continues to amplify every second, with videos of chanting crowds, overturned barricades and jubilant Reform UK supporters going viral within minutes. The scale of the reaction is unlike anything seen in modern British history, a visceral testament to the depth of public frustration and the hunger for change. In Parliament, the scene is equally tense. The opposition benches are fractured, MPs whispering rumours of secret deals, defections and plots to contain Reform UK's influence before it becomes irreversible. Analysts are warning of a constitutional crisis as the sheer scale of the revolt challenges the traditional power balance between Parliament, the monarchy and the electorate. Inside Downing Street, briefings are dominated by phrases like historic failure and public betrayal and unprecedented chaos, terms that underscore the dramatic scale of the moment. Every phone call, every email, every meeting carries the weight of history. This is a government scrambling to maintain control, unsure if control is still possible. Amid the turmoil, the monarchy emerges as a focal point of national attention. King Charles, faced with an unprecedented moral dilemma, must balance constitutional neutrality with the undeniable surge of public outrage. Advisors warn that any misstep could inflame tensions further. Yet inaction risks eroding centuries of royal authority. Royal aides are reportedly spent hours drafting statements, debating whether to condemn, support, or simply observe, all while the nation watches, hanging on every word. The tension is palpable. The moral stakes are historic. And as London streets continue to reverberate with chants, sirens, and the roar of a citizenry that refuses to be ignored, one question dominates every conversation, every headline, every whispered discussion in Parliament and the Palace. How far will this revolt go? And what will the monarchy do next to respond to the demands of a nation in upheaval? The stakes could not be higher. Reform UK has proven that the people's voice is more powerful than decades of entrenched authority. Starmer's Labour faces humiliation unlike any before, with whispers of resignation, internal betrayal and the spectre of political irrelevance looming over every meeting. Meanwhile, the monarchy stands at a crossroads, forced to weigh centuries of tradition against the immediate moral and political crisis unfolding at its gates. And yet, despite all the chaos, despite the resignations, the viral videos, and the endless speculation, one chilling thought persists across every street, every office, and every living room in Britain. Has the balance of power in the United Kingdom just permanently shifted? Or is there still time to restore order before the collapse becomes total? As the sun rose over London, the city remained on edge, a living testament to a nation gripped by shock, anger, and awe. The streets that had erupted in defiance the night before were now filled with quieter, more tense anticipation as citizens, journalists, and political and insiders waited for the next move in a crisis that has shattered every expectation of governance. Inside Downing Street, ministers were still reeling from the news. Reform UK's 74-seat majority was not simply a numerical victory, it was a mandate of moral authority, a message from the people that the old political order had failed and that accountability could no longer be delayed. Starmer, reportedly isolated and exhausted, struggled to consolidate a response, his aides whispering in panic as rumours of resignations, defections, and secret negotiations swirled through the corridors. Every phone call, every email, every hurried meeting was a battle against time as the scale of public outrage continued to grow, spilling into every corner of Westminster. Meanwhile, Reform UK's leadership seized the narrative with precision, their statements measured yet electrifying, signalling a new era of governance defined by transparency, public accountability, and a direct challenge to entrenched elites. Their promise to investigate corruption, hold officials accountable, and restore the people's voice was met with unprecedented support, fueling the sense that a historic realignment of power was underway. Across the nation, citizens followed every announcement, every interview, and every tweet, as though witnessing history unfold in real time, understanding that the events of the past 48 hours could define Britain for decades. The imagery of the previous night, the banners in front of Buckingham Palace, the chanting crowds, the viral videos of ministers cornered in emergency meetings, remains vivid, a symbolic representation of the people reclaiming authority from those who had long claimed to speak in their name. Inside Buckingham Palace, King Charles faced a decision of historic magnitude. Advisors presented options ranging from strict neutrality to measured intervention, each carrying risks of political fallout, public condemnation, or constitutional crisis. For the monarchy, the challenge is moral as much as political. To remain aloof risks irrelevance, to intervene, risks accusations of bias, yet the power of reform, UK's popular mandate, cannot be ignored. Discussions reportedly lasted for hours, with aides meticulously weighing the optics of every word, every gesture, every potential statement. The palace had not faced such direct confrontation in generations, and every member of the royal household felt the weight of history pressing upon them. In the midst of this, Reform UK's leaders emphasised that their victory represents more than a change in seats. It is a call for an ethical reset, a restoration of public trust, and a demonstration that citizens will not be silenced when betrayal, incompetence, or corruption threatens the nation. In Westminster, the scene is equally intense. Parliament itself is paralysed, its chambers echoing with whispers of resignation and panic. Labour MPs, shaken to their core, struggle to reconcile decades of political dominance with the reality of a movement that has overtaken them in both moral authority and public mandate. Across the aisles, Tory officials are equally bewildered, confronted by a party whose momentum they underestimated and whose moral clarity has now captured the imagination of voters across the nation. Analysts warn that the next few days will determine whether Britain can stabilise or whether the political upheaval will deepen, threatening to topple leaders, disrupt legislation, and redefine the nation's governance. Media coverage is relentless, painting a picture of chaos, bravery, and moral confrontation, with every broadcast, tweet, and post amplifying the sense that Britain is living through a defining historical moment. As evening approaches, the nation watches, holding its breath, caught between fear and exhilaration. Citizens debate, protest, and speculate, aware that their actions, voices, and choices have real consequences in shaping the course of governance. Starmer's next move is uncertain. His advisors warn that a single misstep could accelerate the collapse of his party's credibility. Meanwhile, Reform UK prepares to leverage every advantage of its newfound majority, signalling reforms, inquiries and policy changes that promise to dismantle entrenched corruption and restore faith in government institutions. The moral drama is clear. People versus elites, tradition versus rebellion, justice versus complacency. Every decision now carries the weight of history as the nation faces questions it has not confronted in generations. Who truly holds power in Britain, and what happens when the people at last demand it be wielded for the good of the nation rather than the interests of the few? And yet, even as the dust settles on the streets and the halls of government, uncertainty lingers. Will Starmer attempt a desperate counterstrike, seeking to regain authority before Reform UK consolidates its moral and parliamentary power? Will the monarchy intervene decisively, bending centuries of tradition to stabilise the nation? Or will it remain a silent observer as citizens redefine democracy in real time? The public watches, the ministers panic, and the leaders of Reform UK advance with clarity and purpose, knowing that history is unfolding before their eyes. Britain stands at the precipice, its future uncertain, its moral and political order challenged, and its people emboldened to demand the change they have fought for so relentlessly. This is not merely politics, it is a moral reckoning, a test of courage, leadership, and legitimacy. And as night falls, one question burns brighter than any headline, louder than any chant. Will the old order survive, or has Britain entered an era from which it can never return?